The next question is from Phoenix. Phoenix is asking, last stream you talked about a bit about making WebAssembly components. How do you imagine syncing staying across network between WASM and runtimes? I imagine things like texture printing tool, the runs great as painting engine, return console emulator can do multiplayer or scope, much simpler, more stateless, almost stateless things, more like pure functions. So one of the beauties of FrooxEngine is it handles synchronization implicitly for you. And by declaring a component, you're essentially defining a data model. Like you're defining how the component is modeled. And FrooxEngine will automatically replicate that state for you. The code for that like either mutates that state or reacts to that state, it doesn't need to care about synchronization at all. Because that's sort of like, already kind of solved problem. And this is gonna follow pretty much the same principle. It's like you're gonna have your data model definition, how's your component defined, what data it has, and then have your code that either mutates that state or or just reacts to it. Like, does makes certain things happen when it's in certain values. And that pretty much makes it so pretty much most of the time you don't have to worry about networking at all. Only reason you'd worry about networking is more for optimizing the flow and so on. There's certain things, like for example, retro console emulator, where we would probably introduce new primitives, because usually you don't want to synchronize the entire state. And there's for console emulators, there's two ways to approach the synchronization. I would consider the primary ones. One of them is you just have a single user run the emulation, and then you use video streaming to synchronize the video output to other users. So that one, we'll essentially set it up. So only, for example, the host is simulating it, and other users just the video texture, and you have something that you have data model that specifies the inputs from other players, which can react to that. The other approach is using something called lockstep synchronization, and we'll probably introduce more primitives for that kind of thing, where there's primitives that guarantee that for each step of your update, all the values are the same for each of the users. And it'll be kind of the same thing. You just model it, you say this needs to be lockstep. It is, the update function. It takes care of the rest for you. And it's a kind of good way. It does introduce latency for everyone, because it needs to make sure that every user has every other user's input before simulating the next step of the simulation. But pretty much generally, synchronization is handled on very sort of high level, on FrooxEngine. It's one of the kind of biggest strengths of the engine, because even when we make components and we make stuff, 99.9% of the time we don't even think about network synchronization. It just works DM.
It's really useful for when I'm on my own writing mods too, because I can just be set this value to 5, and I know that value is going to be the same for everyone, because it just happens. It's just part of the world.
Yes.